am the Senior Manager of the Civil Rights Division at RTD. And my office really is responsible for ensuring that we have equal opportunity, equal access to all of our transit facilities. We are also responsible for investigating protected class discrimination, and we also oversee the Small Business Office. Today, though, we're going to talk about changes being made to seat design on all of our current and new light rail vehicles. That's going to happen within the next 4 years at RTD. And some of those retrofitted vehicles have already been in service for about a month. So you probably have noticed some of those changes. To accommodate the redesign, 16 seats per train, each at each end, will be removed. The larger space can serve as additional standing room when not being used by passengers with assistive devices. These changes are being made with input from passengers with disabilities, and as a result of a settlement agreement reached in August of this year with the Colorado Cross Disability Coalition. The Colorado Cross Disability Coalition is a Denver-based organization that advocates for social justice for people with all types of disabilities. RTD has agreed to complete these changes on existing light rail vehicles by August 2022. And at this point, because it is a settlement agreement, and it's a done deal, and we are here to inform you of those changes and why those changes had to occur. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them today. We have a couple folks here from RTD. The actual presentation will be done by Phil Ebro, who is our General Superintendent of Light Rail Vehicle Maintenance. I have here with me from RTD, Ed Newberg. He's right there in the back. He's our RTD ADA manager. Ann Herzenberg, Ann Hillier, she's right there. That's our new ADA investigator. And also we have on that side, you will see a form. If you have any questions or feedback that you would like for us to respond to you via email, please feel free to complete it and we'll send you the response. We'll try to answer all the questions that you have, but for right now, I am going to have Phil come in and do the actual presentation, and he will go through and explain all of the reasons why this occurred. Okay, any questions at this time? Yes, ma'am.
Two things. First of all, the acronym CCDC stands for Colorado Cross Disability Coalition.
Okay.
Not organization. And second of all, this presentation, is it available online or in hard copy?
This presentation, we will film it, and whoever was not able to be here today, we will make a video of it and put it on RTD's website. And for folks who would like a copy of it, we'll be more than happy to send you a copy of it. You can send a request to either myself or Ed Newberg at RTD, 1600 Blake Street. Actually, it's going to change October 27. The address is going to be 1660 Blake Street. And that is Denver, Colorado, 80202. You're welcome. All right, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Phil Ebro.
Thank you, Zamy. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. It's good to see you. As Zamy said, I'm Phil Lebrel. I'm the General Superintendent of Light Rail Vehicle Maintenance. And so with the settlement, I was tasked with looking at the feasibility, cost, and possibility of making more ADA space for maneuverability and specifically wheelchair parking areas. And so initially we hired an engineering consulting firm to look into this and contract this out. And it was possible, and it was very expensive going that route to contract it out. And so I was asked to see what I could do, and I looked at all both models of our trains to see what was possible, talked it over, and I was able to come up with a design that was least intrusive on the vehicles and provided ample parking space for what is requested. And so as you can see on the first slide here, it's basic. I think most folks here probably know what this is, but the lead vehicle of every train, a train being one light rail vehicle to up to 4 light rail vehicles, the leading vehicle, the front doors leading vehicle stop at what we call a mini high block. And so on that mini high block, we can stop there, the operator can get out of the cab, deploy the bridge plate, and make a pathway for a person to use that bridge to enter the vehicle and then be on the vehicle and park in some various spots. And there's, I have personally seen people use different spots, and there are 2 designated spots. And so in our original design, what we're going to show you here is how the some of the issues with the original spots of why we did this, okay? And so when the bridge plate's deployed, they can get on, and when the train is in motion, and if somebody chooses to park in the vestibule area up front, and we'll look at this area here, and so this vestibule area up front here, when you park there, those bridge plates could be locked in the vertical position and to where it keeps the people there and then safe. It also provides a barrier in case somebody is standing at the mini high block, and it provides a barrier so people don't try and jump that gap and get on the train. It's a visible barrier for that. And also when that bridge plate, when that ramp, it's also called a trap. When that trap is deployed over the step well, it locks out that door. And so when the operator opens all the doors, that door doesn't open unless the operator opens a specific button to open that door for ADA access, okay? And once we get on the light rail vehicle, this is the original design, and you can see with these red arrows here is where we are able to park with the wheelchairs. Now, this design here, on the original design, what you see, and I don't know if you can tell it in this picture, but you'll be able to tell it in the next picture, it is not long enough longitudinally with a train for a wheelchair to park parallel with the aisleway. And so someone in a wheelchair would park perpendicular to the aisleway. And we heard that folks like to park parallel to the aisleway, and also hopefully have the maneuverability to ride forward or backwards. Most people, I assume, like to ride forwards, and so you need the maneuverability. And so in this original design, you could come in here forwards or backwards, most likely, make a J-turn and get in there and ride perpendicular to the aisleway. And so then once a person gets there, in order for this to become a wheelchair parking area on the original design we're talking now, we're not talking about what we were doing, we're talking about the original design. A person must access, my pointer stopped working on me. See if I can get it working for us. So a person must with one hand, release this knob. It's a knob that locks the seat in position. And so a person must release that knob with one hand, and with the other hand, raise this seat to a vertical position, and then release the knob again, locking it vertical. That's a little bit of a challenging task for folks. Or you can have somebody assist in doing that, okay? So that's the original design, which is also part of why we changed. I'm sorry, this is a new pointer I'm not used to. So now the retrofitted design. And so the first paragraphs you see here are pretty much the same until we get down to the fourth paragraph. And so what we did is the only solution to provide more wheelchair parking access and maneuverability area is something inside the light rail vehicle had to go away in the proximity of the lead cab in the existing wheelchair parking area of the original design. And so in order to do that, what we did is we removed a section of seats, and we had to make some other modifications. And so when you remove these sections of seats, what you end up with is about 85.5 or 86 inches of longitudinal wheelchair parking space, which you can now park a wheelchair parallel to the aisleway, and ample room for maneuvering in and out that way. And so that's pretty much the basis of the new design. And since I'm in maintenance, I was asked to do this presentation, and now I'm going to give you some details. And this could bore some of you, but I'm in maintenance, so here comes the details on what we've done. Excuse me. And so this is a picture of the SD160 vehicles, and you can see this is a drawing, a conceptual drawing before we did anything of what we would end up with. If we could make this happen, we have a couple of serious challenges before we can make this happen. If we can make this happen, these are some of the dimensions you would end up with. 18 3/4 inches clear space outside of the 48 by 30 inch area, and then 31.2 inches in between, and there you are. And this here is a picture of the SD160 light rail vehicle retrofitted. Now in this picture, I want you to pay attention to these baseboard heaters right here. See how they're angled down? Those baseboard heaters are in an angle, and they angle out towards the aisleway. Also want you to look at these white boxes here. Those are called sandboxes. And these sandboxes aid in traction when the wheels spin or slide when the tracks are slick or wet outside. And so when that happens, these can slide and spin, and the train automatically applies sand down to the tracks to aid in traction, okay? And so we had, the seat we removed on the SD160 had one of those underneath the seats. And then once we get this area, in a slide earlier here, I'll go back. You see how when the flip seat is flipped up, as soon as you flip up the seat, it exposes a grab rail and a stop request switch for the passenger that's in that area. If they push that stop request switch, it illuminates a special light on the dash for the operator to know that somebody wants to get off at the next high block and they need to get out and give this person assistance to do so, okay? And so with the retrofit design, it seemed a need that we needed to add this to that area. And so this required us to do some structural changes behind the wall to add the grab rails, and some wiring changes to add the stop request switch right there. And so in a light rail vehicle, which is similar to your home, you don't want to just start putting screws in your wall and mounting grab rails around for accessibility. You don't want that coming down on anybody when they're hanging on for dear life. So what you have to do is go to structure and make sure the mounting fasteners of these grab rails are mounted to structure. And it's the same way with the floors of a light rail train too. All the seats we take out don't just screw into the floor. All the seats are actually mounted to car shell frame structure. And so we had to deal with those issues.
And so here's the SD100 retrofit. So the SD100s, what we did in 1993, is a result of trying to provide the Denver metro area with mass transit. We added on to an order from San Diego, California, and they had purchased Siemens SD100 light rail vehicles. And they wrote the spec, and they were ADA compliant at that time. So when we got those trains, we had part of that order, and we got those here and implemented them into Denver. Those trains are DC propulsion, older technology, but the design is common throughout the United States. It's a real common light rail design, and works very well. And so we have different challenges with that original fleet. We have 49 of those vehicles, and so the retrofit on these is going to be different than the retrofit on the newer trains. The retrofit for the passenger experience on these two models, the SD160 and the SD100, are going to be the same experience for the passengers. It won't change. The difference is my department in making the retrofit, and so that's all. I'm giving you some detail on that today. So in this picture here, as you can see, this heater here, so this is the baseboard heat of an SD100 light rail vehicle, and this blower motor protrudes into the parking area where a wheelchair would be. So if I took that seat out, you still can't park there. There's not enough room. And so we have to get rid of that. And if you get rid of that, then you lose the heat for the people. And there's a couple months here in Colorado and Denver that could be uncomfortable. And so I was challenged to get rid of that. So what I did, the original design is a squirrel cage blower motor design there, and I found what they call a pancake motor or a radial design motor. And so I looked at the feasibility of that. I figured out it could work. I got some of my engineering staff that work in my department and some of the key players, and I tasked them with seeing if they can get that blower motor to integrate into the sidewall heaters and still let the passengers have some heat if in fact we remove this. And so this is early on, all conceptual design, so I could report back to my superiors to see if it's feasible to actually see if they can go forward. And they did a great job. They did some details. It was some pretty extensive retrofit work to modify some things, and some duct work and everything. It brings in air here and blows the air across the top, out across the heater to the passenger area. Also too, we had to remove the walls, see, because you have to get to some of this structure. And light rail vehicles are strong, but they're also built as light as possible. So some of the structure, even though that it's there, it's not real. There's a lot of metal behind panels. And so we had to weld in some plates to provide mounting surfaces for the grab rails. And over here on the right, you see a finished product of an SD100, okay? You can see on an SD100, its baseboard heaters are straight up and down, but they still protrude a few inches out into the passenger area, okay? And that's just to provide heat in the Denver area. And then later on during the retrofit, I looked at this, what we're doing on these SD100 vehicles. We've had them for about almost 25 years now. And so it's time for a midlife overhaul of these vehicles. And so what I'm doing is replacing all the floors in these vehicles and rebuilding some of the major components in there. And so while we're in process of doing this midlife overhaul, we're going to perform this retrofit during that overhaul. And they're going to come out of there clean, ready to go. And I just closed the deal with the manufacturer of the floor now that we can have the international wheelchair symbols embedded in the floor. And so we're going to go forward with that process. And actually later this month, they're going to come and train us to possibly how to put this inlay into our existing floors. Now that's going to be a while down the road. This retrofit's going to take over 4 years to complete. And so you won't see this stuff overnight. But right now, I have 11 vehicles out hauling passengers right now that has this retrofit completed, okay? So far, we're ahead of schedule. I need to do about 35 of these a year. Okay, so the SD160 retrofit, that's our AC propulsion train. And on this particular vehicle, the differences are on that second paragraph. And so with the different design of the AC propulsion light rail vehicle, the sandbox location had moved. And so the sandbox location had moved to where the seat that's in the way is underneath there is a sandbox. And so when the engineering firm looked at that, it became an extremely large amount of money to move that sandbox someplace else, like under the outside of the LRV, under the floor, where there really isn't a lot of room under there. There's a lot of equipment under there. Some sort of a really thin design in the wall. And even though these designs were possible, they really weren't feasible and cost effective. So I got with the manufacturer and learned that they are actually making new light rail vehicles of a different design. It's a different car shell design. But the state of this art now is to provide traction sand only on the leading axle of every LRV. And so with the original design, we would apply sand on the first axle of the first truck. A truck is a set of wheels underneath the trains on the tracks. And then the last truck of the same light rail vehicle would also supply sand to it. And so it was found that they didn't need that second deployment of sand on the trailing truck. They could still get enough traction to reduce the slipperiness of the rails just by adding it to the lead axle. Now, since RTD and myself, we're all about safety, and we don't want to do things just because we think we can, and so we hired the manufacturer to do an investigation to make sure it worked on our vehicle. And they actually did it to some other vehicles in Canada, okay? And so they did it in Canada, and I had them come to Denver and do a study here. And as you can see, this right here, that is the sandbox that has to go away along with this entire seat frame assembly, okay? This is just an illustration of a graph of when they came out and did some dynamic testing on our train. They disconnected the sanders and did some charts of how well it affected the attraction when on slick tracks, and it worked. So we got that done internally. Our safety certification approved it, and so we were good to go on that. And then again in the wall of the SD160, we had to do the same thing to where we looked at the wall structure and designed plates to be welded into here and rewired it to install the stop request switch and move forward with that. So one thing that we do when we do this, and this is an actual picture. Now the SD160s, they're not due for a midlife overhaul yet. There's some years down the road before they get a midlife overhaul, so we need to do this now. And so this is also part of our schedule, the SD160s. And so once you remove a sandbox, you get a hole in the floor, and then you get a hole through the wall that I must fill. And in light rail, the floors serve a purpose. Right underneath that floor, that is the main car shell structure for strength and rigidity in the train. It also provides a smoke and flame barrier. And so I need to be careful with how I plug that hole. And so I went back to the floor manufacturer and I had some custom-made pieces to fill this hole in the floor. Now this hole in the heater grill, that wasn't too difficult, that was easy to fill. And this is a picture of the plates we welded in, our nut certs to mount the grab rails to, and then the finished product, what we helped use some existing grab rail material from the ones that came off of the train, and added these railings here. So I assume that this horizontal piece of grab rail would be one that someone using a wheelchair would like to hang on to, and right underneath that, a little bit protected by that grab rail is the stop request switch that you can push and notify the operator when to get off. And then with the design of the light rail vehicles, like I was saying before, the ADA parking areas are ADA parking areas when it's the lead end of an entire train. And so we're going to do it to all ends of all trains. And so these open areas are going to be running around in the back ends of trains and then further back in the train on other vehicles. And so there's going to be people standing there. And so I added a vertical grab rail for standees. Also what I'm doing, if any of you have ridden our light rail vehicles, there's these straps hanging down from the grab rails that are close to the ceiling. And those grab rails are similar to DIA. I hang on to them every time I take a trip. And similar to DIA, we're going to increase the number of those because there'll be more people standing in the open area. And this open area, like I say, is 86 inches long. And so to do this, this floor is some tough stuff. It's a phenolic-based floor, and it does hold up to smoke and flame. And we had the manufacturer custom make us some plugs. This is what they call in the industry a shiplap process. And so we just take a router and we go in there and we put a rabbet cut into our existing floor. And this stuff is really tough. It goes to a router bit for one hole. And then the manufacturer has a special glue that they approve for their floor that's safe and it'll hold this, and so it's good for the life of the floor. And so then we glue these in, and then we're going to cover this up with flooring plugs. And as you can see, the old sandbox was mounted here with these bolts, and these bolt holes actually go to car shell frame structure on the train. And so then here's the finished product of an SD160. You can see where the sandbox used to be, and then here's the finished product of one of our 11 vehicles we have running around. The grab rails in place, a tape switch, and we put a symbol up here, sign 2. Excuse me. Also, in this design, we left these seats in place. We didn't take those out. That still could be companion seating. That could be seating for folks when somebody doesn't need to occupy there. So that is seats that is a good place for be next to your friend when you're riding the train. Also, the row behind this seat is also priority seating. And so folks can go there, okay? So then that brings us up to the new fleet. So the new fleet, we're always involved with the federal government, but the new fleet is a little bit more interested when we buy brand new trains and the design of those. And so the new fleet is also an SD160, but some of the technology has changed. And so this has actually been quite a few years now. So with our expansion throughout the Denver metro area, we went out to Golden, on the W line. And then we went over to Aurora and went up I-225 and met the commuter rail line. And then now we're extending our southeast extension. The southeast rail extension is going in. And with all these extensions and us having a really good idea what it takes to do maintenance on all these trains, which each one of them getting about 75 to 100,000 miles a month on them, they require a lot of maintenance, so I got to keep some out of service. So we needed to buy 29 more light rail vehicles. Another reason for this too is since we opened, we've modified our infrastructure throughout the city to accommodate 4-car trains. And so nowadays you see 4-car trains out there. And our original fleet numbers weren't for that. And so we're going to buy 29 more trains to try and get us more trains to accommodate that. So there's a couple things that happen on that. Our senior leadership team, that's staff at RTD, and our board of directors, they were interested in changing our seat configuration. And I really have no opinion on it, but they had an opinion that folks don't like the need of seating. So as you see our trains now, when you sit in a seat, you're facing another person facing you, and you're facing each other knee to knee, right? And so they said, let's go knee to back like buses do, you know, and airplanes and things like that. And so I had the manufacturer look into a design that incorporated knee to back seating. And so since I was involved with this settlement and I knew what I was doing on the retrofit, I went ahead and I've read some things. I'm familiar with the CFRs, the federal regulations of what's needed. And I happen to know that what's possible in my career, even though I'm pretty old up here, but it's possible in my career that the ADA accommodations and the federal regulations could be a new wheelchair parking area that equals 32 inches by 59 inches. That's possible. If that happens, I don't want to do this again. And so I asked the manufacturer, let's just meet that now. Let's meet that now. We've already met it with our retrofitted vehicles. I got 172 vehicles in Denver right now that's going to have 85 to 86 inches in there. And so maybe you don't need to meet that, but if we have a knee-to-back seating design, see what you can give me, and I need at least 59 inches in length. And so they did that. And they were successful on that, and I'll show you some of those designs. Also, what we heard from the federal government, which throughout my career, I've been with RTD for 33 years, and I've been at Light Rail since 1993, the bridge plate had no side barriers. And the FTA says, Phil, you need side barriers. And so the new fleet is going to have side barriers on the bridge plate. And we'll show you a little bit of that. And that's the federal government telling me to do that, so I will do it. So here it is. And so this is the design, an overshot of a drawing. I don't know how many of you are comfortable with reading drawings. They're a little hard to read if you're not used to reading drawings. But you can see the wheelchair parked here, facing forward, like we assume most folks want to do. And you can see how the wheelchair is interfering with that seat right there. You see that? It's interfering with that seat. So what that becomes is a flip seat. And so then I said, well, you know, I have problems with the flip seats. You know, me personally, and a lot of our folks, I think, have problems with the flip seats. I've actually read customer complaints about the flip seats. And so then they showed me a design they had for another customer in the country. And this design is nice. This new design of a flip seat is a flip and stay, they call it. And so it doesn't take any lock mechanisms. If you push it down to sit on it, it stays down. If you raise it up vertically, it stays up. And I played with the one that was done for another city while I was out at the manufacturer's plant, the manufacturing plant, and I just stepped over to it, and I took my shin bone, and I just nudged it and kind of pushed on it as I was walking towards it, and it raised up for me without having to use my hands. And so I kind of liked that. And so I went ahead and approved their flip seat design in here. And so once the flip seat is down, it's 51.5 inches. So that's still pretty good. That still meets the current regulations for ADA parking space. If you flip it up, you will get almost 63 inches of parking space. And so I think we got a win there on that one too. And then, yes?
It says between sidewall heater covers, does that say 96 inches?
That says 96 inches.
Is that wide?
I'm getting into that coming in a future slide, yeah. So I'll answer that one on a couple slides away from here.
Thank you.
Very observant. So, because we don't have that now. And that's why I was kind of pointing out those baseboard heaters on the prior designs, okay? And let's see, so we have that when it's flipped up, and so we got ample spot. So here's the side barriers of the bridge plate. I have to do this. I don't know if everybody's gonna like it, but I have to do it. So here they come.
It is scary, especially when you have to back off the train.
Yes, you don't want to drop a wheel. You don't want to drop a wheel. And so this will prevent you from dropping a wheel. So here is an overview of that. We did get some input from our community here in Denver of what type of stop requests they would like to see. I'm buying a brand new train as a blank sheet of paper, why not, right? And so the folks picked this. That's what's coming. Now, the manufacturer also agreed to put inlaid symbols in these. Yes?
Good to see you. Just a quick question about that. Is the driver still going to ask the person what destination they want when they come on, you know?
That's not in, I'm strictly in maintenance, but I don't know of any operational or training changes in the future because of this. The way that we behave and interact with our passengers and our customers is going to be exactly the same or better. Okay? Mm-hmm. So here it is here. You got a picture of one that's flipped up and one that's not flipped up. And then you still have what's left here is a companion seat even if you flip it up. And I was at Siemens a couple of weeks ago, and that's our first vehicle right there, folks. That's the very first vehicle. And I unwrapped it a little bit on them and took a little picture with my phone of the actual floor. So this is the floor that's coming, and that's the area. You can see our familiar sandbox hole here. And you can see there is no sandbox hole here. So the manufacturer is also proposing and adopting the reduced sanders in the new light rail vehicles. And then here's an overview of the new seating. And the board of directors approved the NITA back seating, and this is that configuration there. You could see that we could utilize some of the old style seating here, but that's just facing a doorway. And so we've done this, and by this we've gained back some more seats. We gained back 10 more seats, which is nice. So over here is when I was telling Siemens that this new regulation, so the new regulation is now, it's not a new regulation yet, but what may come in my career could be a 32 by 59 inch area. So 32 plus 32 plus 32 is 96, and so they achieved it. And I told them because this is the same exact baseboard heater, but on the existing trains, it angles down this way. And so I told them to look into the engineering and design of this and stack them on top of each other. And they did that, and they proved it out not to be a problem, and so that's what's coming, okay? All right, so what I'm gonna do now, folks, is everybody still okay? We doing all right? You ready for some more? Yes, go ahead.
Could you go back? Is that possible?
You bet.
On the one that you just left us.
I'm a little bit too fast on my clicker, aren't I?
Two questions on that. The ones that you're going to be correcting, will it be flush on the floor, or will there be like bumps of where you covered it up?
On our retrofitted trains, my folks have impressed me on that one. So what we did is we took every millimeter into account. And so we bought the subfloor, which is underneath the rubber flooring, is an exact product of the manufacturer and meets the exact height. And then the rubber that goes over that meets the exact height also. And so I believe by federal regulations, I have a 1/4 of an inch and still be okay, but I really don't think you'll feel it through your wheels. I don't think you'll feel it.
And then another question I have is, so I'm trying to understand, to the right side of this, where it shows where the wheelchairs will be, so there's going to be, you're creating space for 2 wheelchairs side by side.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. So what this is a picture of, and I'm glad you brought that up because I assume people are used to looking at what I look at all the time. And so this is a half of a light rail vehicle. This drawing is half of a light rail vehicle. So right over here, that's the middle of the light rail vehicle. This is the leading end. This is the cab floor where the operator sits. And so this is the only wheelchair area here. And so when we come back here, this was the manufacturer's design, which we accepted. You wouldn't be facing any knee to knee. So we have what the achievement was, and I kind of left this part out earlier, but what this was is a 50-50 arrangement. See, you got about half the people facing this way, about half the people facing that way. So depending on which direction the train's going, within the same half of a car, you can choose to ride facing forward or backwards. And that's why they're that way.
Because since I'm in a wheelchair, I never go back that. I don't know what it looks like past the
Oh, yeah.
wheelchair.
And the design is from the edge of this flip seat forward to this seat, that's the ADA area. Back here, if a person goes back there, there's no law against it, but if you go back there, it's 25 inches in between there, and then when you get back here, you got step rail holes, and it gets risky, and then people will come on and you have to beg them to let you off, and it's not really a good plan.
That space that's right there. Again, because I've never.
This space, this is the same as this space, but it's in the middle of the light rail vehicle. This is the step well hole. So this is the step. So we have 4 doors on each side of the train. They all have steps. So on the mini high block, that trap that I was talking about covers the steps, so you really don't see it. But the people that come through here must use the stairs to get in the light rail vehicle.
And thank you, that clarifies, because I didn't know what that was. And then, next question I have is, I don't know if this is for you to respond to or not. Since a lot of the, many times, most of the time, frequently, people using strollers will come and use this space. And also people with bicycles will go up the ramp pushing the bicycle and then be there. Even though the sign says no bicycles behind the driver, they still will be there. So how is that going to affect our ability to have the 2 wheelchairs parallel? I don't know, I guess I'm not wording the question enough.
Well, I think I understand what that is saying, because I'm familiar with this, and there's federal law protecting folks, and so that's up to the citizens to get along with each other and notify the authorities if it's not happening that way, I guess. But it is federal law that they have to let you be free to move, park there, unless they also are in a wheelchair. And so I don't know what to say to that, but that is kind of outside my purview on that. That's more of an operational issue and a community issue. How well we get along with each other type thing.
I got a question.
Yes.
So for non-disabled people standing in that area, I don't think you're going to be able to fit the 16 people that you're displacing into that space when you only have 1 handrail and a couple of rubber things to hold on. You're going to be forcing most of those people into the center aisle.
What we have there, and this is trying to accommodate everyone effort, and so the additional straps in there. There are 4 of these areas for every light rail vehicle itself, right? There's 4 areas, and so each area is going to have 6 straps plus the grab rail. And so if there's 5 people per area, that's 20 people can be there.
But they're going to be, if they're holding on the rubber strap, they're going to be in the middle. They're not going to be in that empty area there. The only person that's going to be in the empty area is going to be holding on to that 1 vertical bar that you have in there. Everyone else is gonna be in the middle.
Okay, and that's a point we'll take, and we'll see how that goes, and we can take that into consideration in the future. Also, there's the horizontal grab rail there also.
That's too low. If you're standing, if you're an adult and you're standing, that's too low.
Okay.
You have to kneel to grab it. So, I lost my train of thought. on that.
I do that all the time.
But, yeah, I don't believe that you're gonna be using all that. That's gonna be a lot of empty area. And you're gonna have, I ride the H line, there's 4 cars on there. 3 of the cars will not have any handicapped people on it. Just the first one will. And so I wonder why you could not just select a specific number. And I know why you're doing it because I read about it. But I think it would be better if you only selected a select number of cars, designated those cars for the first car, and left all the other cars alone, because you are negatively impacting thousands of regular riders by doing this change.
Yes, that is a point. And to do that, we would have to have a lot larger investment to have the logistics of adding and cutting trains. And so it's kind of how we do business. Our 4-car trains can instantly become a 3-car train or a 2-car train. And at any time they become that front LRV must have ADA access or be removed from service. And so this is the direction that the district chose to do with an agreement with the settlement, is 100% of anything that could possibly be the lead cab is to have meet the requirements.
You know, the regular riders had no say in this at all. No say at all. And there's nothing posted on the trains that say this change is even going to be coming in. I only knew about it because I happened to ride on one that's already been converted, and I get the newsletter. That's how I knew about this meeting. That's the only way that I knew about this meeting. RTD has not done a good job in promoting this change and getting input.
And I appreciate your comments, and I understand your frustration, and we did expect that there would be some concerns with this, and that's where we have the comment cards and in the board meetings downtown, if you would like to speak. But yes, Zamy would like to speak there.
Just want to add. Hello. I just want to add that the settlement agreement was reached in August of 2017. RTD could not advertise anything until we figured out what we were going to do. And so reaching that agreement, every train now has a transflux. There's a message on there that explains exactly what is going on.
That's not true. I rode the train this morning. There's no signs.
Zamy, he is correct. My boss has instructed me to put signs on every train that has been retrofitted.
Okay. So we'll talk more about making sure that we put signs on the other trains so that folks can know what's going on. But again, as Phil explained, when the train is out there, at any point, any time, that cart, whatever cart, can become the lead cart because one of them can go out of service. And so we need to ensure that all of the carts comply with this, regardless if it's the front cart or not. Okay.
Yes, another question?
Two things. On the handrails, is that what they're called, the things hanging?
We call them grab rails, yeah.
The grab things. When they're over in this area, are they gonna be just on the sides where that bar goes around like that? Or can they be suspended like more like towards the middle so that people, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, those grab rails, do you see this line?
Yes.
They're straight above that line. That's where they exist in the ceiling.
And so along here in that middle spot there, where there will be people, standing, are they just gonna be along there, do you see my question? Or will they be more towards like the window area so that more people can stand and hold on?
This area here, this is a step well, and right about here, there's a vertical grab rail about, I would say 34 or 35 inches high that comes up for that area right there. And that exists right there.
I'm just asking that because again, I don't go into that.
Right.
so I don't know. And then the second thing I wanted to ask is the area that's in front of those seats over there. Yes, right there, those seats. If more people with wheelchairs or scooters, et cetera, come on, are we still going to be able to park in that area?
Yes. Yes.
It's still going to be okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep. If you're up there, you may have to move. And that was another reason we did this retrofit, is because you get one person in a wheelchair park longitudinally there, and if it's an oversized wheelchair, that may interfere with the movement of this person. And then, what happens a lot of times is folks park here and here, right?
Yes.
And they park like this. And so when other folks come on, whether they are using a mobility device or not, they end up moving. And so we're trying to reduce that. Yes, Doug. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I think we're.
I don't know if I need to snap my fingers or what.
I must have a crick in my neck here. I'm not looking to the left.
I understand what the gentleman was talking about before my injury, however, those of us in wheelchairs, walkers, canes, we are also regular riders. So I want to make that very clear. We use that services quite often, especially I live off of the W line, and we have multiple people who uses that who are regular riders and people who have mobility limitations, not just wheelchairs. The thing is, what I'm concerned about is I understand what he's saying on the handrail. I don't think I ever used one before I ended up in a wheelchair. You know, it was so nice to fall in someone's lap, but nevertheless, that was in my younger days. I'm just joking, of course. However, I understand what he's saying, but I was on one of the new ones that has been redesigned, and it was packed, and very few people at that time. I'm not saying this is a general thing. Didn't even use the handrails. They did use the ones that were level of the seats or whatever. But I wanted to make sure people understand that a lot of this has to do, and you said it earlier, even though I could talk about how people act on the light rail, is that this was done for a reason. It was done because others would not move because the space was so small. You could not put two wheelchairs on there. And right now, the drivers have been very great about getting as many at those stops. Sometimes he has 2 or 3 wheelchairs at a stop, and he has people with their grocery carts or some of the other things you see off of the 16th Street Mall, carts with clothing on in it, as well as people with walkers. And I think what you all have done here is a darn good thing. It's a lot better than what we're having. For those of us who uses the specific light rail, I'll say the D because I'm on the D quite often. And there are quite a number of people who are limited in their mobility, and even going to the A line. I ride the A line often. I get to be stuck on that. And it really has helped. Oh, I probably jinxed myself by saying that, but nevertheless, we make it. It's the same issue that you find on the 16th Street Mall. They have the things that you hold on to, but most people don't hold on to them. They rather just fall on each other. And that sounds silly, but it is a reality. But I just want to make sure people understand that those of us in the wheelchair, those of us who use walkers, who use canes, we are also regular riders. And sorry if that's an imposition to some folks, but there is a tendency, you know, for most of us to work together, and we have. We bump into each other with our wheelchairs, and we make space for each other. So I really appreciate what RTD has done here. It may not be perfect, but I can guarantee you it's a hell of a lot better than what has been going on.
Thank you. And I'm, yes, Doug.
Something else just to help this discussion. Yeah, to help this discussion is that it's not just when the train comes out of service, we need to make sure the new one coming on has this space. But when a train reaches the end of its line, it does not pick up and turn itself around. It reverses. And so that means the other end of the train is now in front.
Right.
And so there's no way, we can't have a crane at every ending of routes or the H line stopping at Florida.
Yes, but his point was is if we had a 4-car train, we'd only have to have 2 with one end of those 2 modified, and that's what his point.
And so, but in my travels around the U.S., I've been blessed to have visited over half of our states. The public transit in other places has a lot of open space. In fact, it's more open than it is seats. And so the public in other areas have figured this out decades ago. So I'm not concerned about these issues.
I think there's going to be a lot of opinions on this. What I need to do, folks, is I need to show you this video. I promised I would, and it's a video that we didn't hire a professional video team to make this video, so this is a pretty bare video to just demonstrate to me, the manufacturers demonstrate this to me and the RTD, the district, that what they proposed will fit wheelchairs with maneuverability and will meet the requirements and hopefully meet the improved requirements of the future. And so we had in the specification I was involved with, they had options of how to prove this to us. And so there's computer-generated graphics, right? And so we sat down and we thought, you know, we could make computer-generated graphics look like anything works. You know? And so we decided to use regular folks, and I'm one of the folks in the video, so no laughing, please. But we didn't hire actors or not professionals. The manufacturer has a mock-up of a light rail vehicle. We had them configure it to the new proposed seating ADA area. So it's only a mock-up of the lead doorways. It doesn't have everything in there, but it's dimensionally accurate of what we're getting. And the area is there, and the distance between all the seats in the aisleway is dimensionally accurate. So what you're going to see in this video is accurate. You're also going to see us driving wheelchairs. We're not good at this. And so the manufacturer was worried. And I said, don't get worried. I said, this I think it's better. If novices not knowing what we're doing can make this work, then maybe it's really going to work. And so you'll see. Now when you see this video, I'm telling you, I was on a Jazzy. And it wouldn't go backwards and left at the same time. That function didn't work, so you'll see me struggling with it a little bit here. But I'm going to play this video and pause it intermittently here. And so this happened in April 14th of 2016. This had to happen before they broke ground, so to speak, on building a new vehicle. And so this is the mock-up we're going to do. And I'm going to show you what we did. There's a couple of uncomfortable pauses in here. I didn't make them edit this close enough. So here's what we're going to use, right? So I decided to make them show what I really see out there and what some of you commented now. We have strollers, we have knee boards, we have scooters. And so I've seen Quantum 600s out there. I've seen Jazzies. I think they're, I don't know, in my opinion, look like the most maneuverable. We have the Golden Light Radar, that's a scooter. I was really nervous about the scooter. I didn't personally think the scooter would do it. I thought I was gonna have to come home and think of something new because I really thought the scooter would fail. Then we had a manual wheelchair, your traditional wheelchair like you see in hospitals. This is the wide one. This isn't the narrow one, this is the wide one. And so this is the extra wide wheelchair. We had a person in a knee board, and we had a person in a traditional walker, okay? And then we had a baby stroller because they show up all over the place. And they a lot of times use the high block, the mini high block. So here we go, we're gonna start playing this, and that's a list of the equipment we're gonna use. I get into some detail here. This is them. This is a picture of what we're gonna use, right there. There's your Quantum 600, that's what it is. It reclines and extends, okay? This is your Jazzy, it pivots on a dime here. This is the scooter, this is the Golden Light Rider. This is the one that doesn't have a very good turning radius. This is your manual wheelchair. These are tough to operate out there. This is an external view of our mock-up, okay? And so this is our view from the camera, which we're going to keep this view for purposes of most of this video. And so here comes a gentleman, one of the engineers in the Quantum. And so he's demonstrating, coming in here, he's demonstrating maneuverability, and the seat is already flipped, because they didn't have that new seat in production yet to actually use it. So we just tied a seat up to show the flip position. And he's showing you maneuverability. He went in forward in this scenario. I wrote some scenarios to have them try different scenarios, so different wheelchairs, different folks in different scenarios. So he's maneuvering, he got himself inside of there, and then there he is. So he's parked there. And so in this scenario, then he pulls straight out and moves, and I like this overhead shot because you can see clearances here, okay? You can see the room. On the floor, I don't know if you can see it or not, it shows 37 inches between the ADA access aisle. And it shows 25 inches in between the seats that are not ADA compliant access, because that's where you're talking about going further back. You have to be less than 25 to go back there, and then once you do, you're at risk. So we got an uncomfortable pause here. This is the part of it was editing, because I believe that gentleman actually goes outside and gets into something else and comes back. And so here's the manual wheelchair. And so he's going to come up in a manual wheelchair with a companion. Well, he's the companion. And this person in the manual wheelchair is coming in there. They also came in forward. They also maneuvered and spun around. This is your 60-inch circle demonstration.
Phil, how wide is that chair?
32 inches. And there's a 60-inch circle requirement, by the way, for maneuverability. And so this achieves that. And so he's parked there, and you can see he chose to do the companion seat with his buddy, and so there they are riding, right? So they're riding there, and they're not quite all the way in the area, but here I come, and I'm coming in the Jazzy. And so I also come in forward, and then I'm gonna spin around here and try and find my parking spot, and then a lady in a stroller is coming behind me, and I'm maneuvering a little bit, and this is where I'm learning that the joystick doesn't have a left and back at the same time, so I was struggling. But I got in there, and then she comes in, and she just goes straight on through. So that shows you a stroller can get through that area. Here comes a person in a walker. So let's see where he goes. So he decides he wants to sit in front of me, and I say, sure. And so I back up a little bit to get a little bit more room. I think he would have fit anyway, but you can see our knee room now. And this is on a 62-inch space, okay? So this is the new design, 56 seats, 2-inch space. Here comes a lady on a knee board. She comes straight on through. Right where she's at, that's priority seating, folks. That's a priority seating area. And so that's where she goes. And so here comes there's a race for the door, it looks like. So they're racing for the door. And now they're leaving. So see, we got everything on, and now we're getting everybody off. Yes?
Can it show back so we can see where the lady with the behind it is?
Way later in the video, you can see this is just a mock-up. And so back there isn't real.
See what it looked like with her back.
At the very end of this video, you'll see back there. It's just not nothing fancy. It's a mock-up, but we'll show you. Yes?
And one of the great things is on this new training, that extra few inches of width
Yeah.
allows that full aisle to be there for people with luggage, all the regular people.
Yeah, yeah. And we're not going to change our policy and procedures on who uses and how we use the light rail vehicles. So here comes the Quantum again, and he's coming in here. So yeah, that's right. This scenario is he's gonna, I believe, back in now, right? And so that's this scenario. So let's see if you can back this thing in. And again, we're not used to this. I think this is a common practice right now before the retrofit. Back again, I don't know for sure, but I think it's real common that that's maybe the way of choice. I don't know. So I just wanted to show both ways, and so it looks like he accomplished that one. And what we basically try to do, so now we have a Quantum in place and a Zamy leading. Okay, so that was doable.
Now, the last guy who just backed in there, he cheated a little bit, right? Because there should be a sandbox under that seat.
Oh, that front seat?
He was
Yeah.
going underneath the seat quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
But it's still okay.
Yeah, so here comes the scooter. It made the turn. It made the turn pretty good. I was surprised. So he comes in there, and then he's going to back up and go what you suggested earlier, and he's going to park there, even though we have extra space for him back the other way. I just wanted to show that it's doable. I'm not telling you you need to park there or have to park there. It's doable. You can park there. And so he parked there. And then here comes a person walking in, and everybody's in the roller. He's going to sit there. Okay? So he's going to sit there. So he did. And so then here I come again in the manual wheelchair, and it's getting tight in there, but I needed to see this, because I'm no good at these things, but I needed to see that does this happen, right? So I got in there. So we had a scooter in the way, we have a Quantum 600 in the other parking space, and I'm over here maneuvering around, trying to get myself in here. Now there's a gentleman over there, and so he kind of gets a little bit of a push. Oh, maybe I got to move my knee a little bit for him. And so that he moves his knee, and he lets me come on in there, okay? And so that's just real world stuff. You know, we weren't, professional. So this is kind of what, we were experiencing what it's really like for folks riding our trains. And I really wanted to see what it's going to be like to ride our new trains. And so we got a lot of stuff in here. We got a scooter in here, a not a Zamy, we got a Quantum 600 and a manual wheelchair extra wide. So we're in place, and I'm over the line. And so here comes a lady in a walker, and I guess the other guy said, go to the back, and so she, went back to the priority seating. And so there she goes back to the priority seating area, okay? And so we skipped a couple slides here, but we're moving. I did bump into him, but there was clearance if I had been a better driver. And so now we're unloading the train again. He's going to wheelie himself out of there. And then we'll go to our next scenario here. I know this is a little bit boring, but it was a requirement that they had to prove that we can do this, and this is real world stuff. So here comes the Quantum again, and so now he's going to park over here. So I wanted to demonstrate that it's not just a skinny scooter can park there. The Quantum is a significant sized wheelchair. It's in what I've read in the manuals and stuff, a transport mode, so that's the mode you're transporting yourself around in. And so while he's there, the scooter makes its big turn to come in there, and I like that. I like to see that. That actually happened, and so that's achievable. He can actually fit back there, so he went back there. I don't know what he's going to do back there, but he went back there. And so then here comes the Zamy again, and so the Zamy's going to spin around, and is he going to park that way? Yeah, I think he's going to park facing backwards, which, to each his own. And then, and so you see how we saw the Jazzy fit back there? It's not an ADA area, but it's a demonstration. The Jazzy went there.
So it's possible if it was necessary.
Yeah, it's possible. A lot of folks that come in behind you and sit in seats and block aisleways for you. So you just have to, can I please get off the train type communication. So now I'm coming in there with a buddy of mine in a wheelchair. I park him over in the area, and then I'll take the companion seat, and hopefully I remember to set his brakes. He said his, he said his own brakes. I didn't do it for him. Okay. All right. So so this scenario is we got a manual wheelchair in there, a companion in there, and then we're going to get up and move. We're just showing that that's possible. This is actually one of the more challenging ones. You know, those extra wide wheelchairs are a little more challenging, and your hands are out there on the wheels themselves, and so you need a little extra room. And so we achieved that sort of an effort. And here comes the scooter again. He's going to park over into this doorway again, I believe, for this last scenario. Oh, yes, go ahead.
The question I have is more of a policy or operational, but since you're on this scenario, a lot of times drivers the operators will pull off before you're able to get into your space, which can hinder you from actually doing the turning and operation of your wheelchair. So my question would be to whoever is in that position, is there a policy, or I could is there a way to recommend that before the operators pull off, and I understand sometimes they're running behind and they're trying to do catch up, but when you're maneuvering like that, it's kind of hard to do all of this when it's already in motion.
I see your point on that, and I know for sure that we have agreed, we've actually agreed to improve our training, and I'm sure that Zamy and stuff will bring that concern forward to make sure that we do keep people's real experience in mind when we're driving around out there. And not only wheelchairs and maneuvering, but folks that haven't got to a grab rail yet, or they have a cane or something like that, you know, you don't want to put anybody on their face in the middle of the aisle.
Phil, aren't they supposed to, the train operators are supposed to accelerate at a certain level so their people aren't jostling around, right?
The train has an acceleration level that's computer controlled, but someone, if an operator, yeah, they can put somebody on the ground. So it's a matter of training. It's really a matter of training. I learned that fast when I was a teenager. When I got off of school buses and got on the public transportation, I better be sitting down. The school bus driver waited for me, but when I got to, this was when I was a teenager. So we will address that another way. So this gentleman's parked there, straight on in, and this is a demonstration that the operator came out of the door while the gentleman would park there. Now, everybody sees that it's possible, but not everybody parks in the right place, and you could get hit by the door, just like what happens now if you park there. Just a point of transparency. It's possible, but it may not work out. Okay, so I've seen this, and so I asked Siemens to do this. I said, I've seen these Quantum 600s moving around with the reclined and extended mode. And so let's see what happens here. So here comes the Quantum 600 in the extended and reclined mode. And we got some maneuverability there. And we didn't practice with these, except for this one here. We did take one practice shot. And his first shot was one move and he got it perfect. And then when we turned the camera on, then he kind of misjudged a few things there. But he did make it. He maneuvered around, and he's all extended out there and everything. And so again, this is not your 86-inch parking area. This is your 62-inch parking area. And a Quantum 600 extended and reclined made it round the corner by the operator and out the door. And so I really wanted to show that because I think that was another one of our challenges. And so I'm going to open it up to questions and just let you view the rest of this because that's the end of the video. This is just a different camera angle, so if you're interested in what our mock-up looks towards the back, it'll come up here in a little bit. But this is just a different angle just to show you a different perspective. But is there any other questions today? Yes?
I'd just like to applaud you. The number of pieces to this puzzle that you solved. Just hats off. And thank you.
Thank
This
you.
was no small feat that you accomplished. And I hope you can pass this on to your boss that you deserve a raise.
Well, I do recognize, I appreciate the sentiments, I really do. And I am proud of what I do. And I am very aware that we're not making everybody happy here. This is not a win, everybody wins scenario, but we need to do this. We're ordered to do this, and we want to do this, and it's a long time coming. Over 20 years, it's a long time coming, and it probably should have been this way from day one. And then we wouldn't have had to disappoint some other folks. There's a lot of different solutions. And really, none of us at RTD have gotten our way on what's out there. Because it's just not, we just can't afford it. We just cannot afford to do what's really nice. But we can afford to give some reasonable transportation and haul the masses around, and people can use it for what it is. And so we hope you enjoyed what we've done. And if you can use it, please use it. And if not, keep letting us know. We have the customer service line. We have comment cards over here. We have board meetings, public board meetings at Lake Street. And so we're open to new ideas. And I'm hoping to this retrofit here let you understand that RTD is not closed. We're not opposed to change and closed ideas, and we really try. So there's the end view of the mock-up, if you're interested. And so back there, it's just aisles and seats. Is what's back there. That's what's back there. All right, folks. Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate you coming out, and thank you. Let's see, what time is it? We're doing okay on time. So. Oh, yes, another question. Go ahead.
I live in a community that we have 6 facilities of older people, I'm trying not to say elderly, older individuals and retirees, people who have some mobility limitation, not just physical, but others. Visually or others. My question here is, and they would have been here tonight, but they use transit services, so we were trying to make arrangements to get them here. So I want to go back to your response, or someone's response. Will this be able to be seen online? Because they really were interested in seeing how this was done.
Yes, we're going to have this available online. I don't know how fast it'll be there, but it will be available online.
And would you be able to, say a large organization that works with people with disabilities and the elderly community, is this a presentation that can be taken or seen, be done at their meetings or whatever?
You're saying, am I a traveling roadshow?
Yes. Say like Dr. Cobb or somebody like that.
I don't know the answer to that one because there is a cost to this for us, and so I don't really know the answer to that myself. If I'm asked to do this, I will. That's all I can say.
That's fine, thank you.
I just want to add that we are filming this, and so we will have a video when we finished, published on our website for anyone who missed the meeting today. And if there is a request for us to go and do a presentation, we can see about arranging that as well. You're welcome.
Yes.
I have a question. This open area here, boarding and so forth, loading, there's one bar, grab bar, standing down. Are there going to be other grab bars along there as well?
What you're going to see on the new trains is exactly what you see now on the trains. That configuration has not changed except for the side barriers on the bridge plate. That will be new on the new vehicle only. And just so you know, and I don't know, this isn't part of the settlement, and it isn't part of the orders from the FTA, but just in case, to kind of cover myself, is that bridge plate with the side barriers, I had the manufacturer make that reverse compatible to the older fleet, just in case I could afford to retrofit the older fleet with that bridge plate that has the side barriers. And so it's possible, and this is a lot of years down the road, this is after this retrofit, this is if our income goes up and our ridership goes up, and we can afford to add bridge plates to the other ones, or if the federal government says I must, then I will do it. And that will be a cost savings if I have to.
Okay. The view that we're seeing right now, is this exactly how it's going to look? Or it's,
This is dimensionally how it's going to look, not exactly.
because I'm saying, because what I like about that is that, because I've had experience where my chair has got stuff on, the wheels on the side.
Off the bridge plate? You've experienced dropping a wheel. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Well, this will help that.
But I like how that looks, because it just looks like it's smooth.
That part is not accurate. So everything, the space in between those posts is accurate, but everything outside of that vehicle is not accurate. Our bridge plate is narrower than that.
Do you have a shot of the perchance?
A shot of the new one?
Of how it's going to look from the road?
It's not built yet.
Okay.
But we did have some pictures of our you know, when the bridge plates were in place on the existing trains, that's going to be dimensionally the same. Mm-hmm. And actually the side barriers, even though they protect you from falling off, they also become something to run into. It's physics, I guess, something like that.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, folks, well, thank you. I appreciate it.